Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another not so fashion talk show, a show about something. Today, we're gonna have a very special interview here. We're gonna talk a little bit about health, ancestral health, and many other things. Let me call my guest. Just sent you an invitation. Hey, man.
Hello, how's it going?
Hello. How are you?
Great, great. How are you?
Good. 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 So before we start, like I only know by your username. So can you tell me what's your real name?
Sure. Yeah, that is my real name is Casey Bradford, Case Bradford. That's my name. My real name is William. It was my grandfather's name. I tuned in at the beginning of this. Did you say that we're going to be talking about sexual health?
The what?
Did you say we're going to be talking about sexual health too?
No, about health, ancestral
Oh,
health,
yes.
and other things.
All right, I'm down to
It's-
go wherever the conversation goes. I'm fascinated by the topic, so I'm excited to just jam with you on this topic. Can talk pretty much hourlessly, like endlessly about this kind of stuff. So it's good to be here.
yeah, it's no, it's funny because uh, for those who don't know and are gonna be watching the talk show later or maybe coming in afterwards, I wrote a book about my journey that it's a lot to do with health, and I go on Twitter every now and then to kind of like put my word out, and I start getting some followers to kind of read the book, and then I came across with you, and we were talking about similar things, and we were like, you went to a journey, and when I asked for your bio and I read, I was like, man, 12 from 12 to 22 was exactly like where my trouble was going. I was really depressed on that time, and then by 22, 23, I was like, I'm out, I need to make a change. And you were like the same timeline, and I was like, that's kind of coincidental, but I'm seeing like almost as a pattern. But I want you to share a little bit of your story, like starting from there, and then we kind of go on with the conversation. I think it would be kind of cool.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a meandering journey for me. It did start, yeah, through that decade. There were a lot of struggles. I grew up with like pimples and braces and definitely some depression and anxiety. And later did I realize that a lot of that could be linked to food. And it's really just the default system that we all grow up in. School kind of isn't really geared towards amplifying your ability to be human or your wellness by any means. And that the food that is provided is really suboptimal to say the least. So you just grow up running on this really below average sort of wavelength. I was lucky where I was from a middle class upbringing, and I'd say kind of oscillated between like upper middle class and lower middle class, kind of depending on where you compare it to. If we look at
Yeah.
global situation, we're living like kings in America, but compared within America, and especially where I am in Los Angeles, people are living incredible lifestyles. There's such a spectrum, but for me, once I discovered ancestral eating and lifestyle, it just cut out a lot of the refined sugars and dairy and refined carbohydrates, grains. Wow, a completely different. I felt like I became a different person,
Yeah.
which was incredible. It was, yeah, the levity in my mind was the biggest thing that I noticed. Um, Everything seemed so much lighter and it seemed to flow. I could think clearly and it was more positive. Those were some of the biggest revelations, but it wasn't a straightforward path from there because, like you, I did stumble upon some plant-based documentaries,
Mm,
veganism and
really?
vegetarianism. And I was like, oh, this is like important for the future and causes climate change and is healthier. So I tried that out, and that was actually, two steps backwards. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
It's so funny, man. You mentioned that because I went in the same route. And like I think you mentioned on your bio that in 2012, that's when you made the switch, and that's when pretty much I was in my vegan journey, but I was looking for that switch. You know, it was exactly the same year, and but I was like, man, you know, like something's not right in here, like with the plant based. I was like, I'm not thriving, and like I'm taking like so much supplements, and you know, one day my wife looked to me, she's like, if you have to take that many stuff, like this is not a good diet, right? Like it's like there's something's going on, and I was just trying to have energy to kind of wake up in the morning, you know, like basically basic motivation stuff is like not just getting off bed and you know going to. On that time I was an athlete, but uh, uh you know it was like it's kind of weird, but you went through the same experience pretty much.
Same experience, and it was around that time where I decided to just start reading it. And it's crazy because you'll pick up one book from a doctor, it'll be completely persuasive and compelling about why meat is bad and cholesterol is killing us, and why a plant-based diet is the way to go. And then you pick up another book from another credentialed doctor, equally as compelling, that says the exact opposite. And I just became obsessed with trying to figure out, all right, where's the thread? Where's the truth between these major, religions of health? And
Yeah,
I've come to realize it. A lot of it just comes down to nutrient density. If you're going to get food that is kind of grown near you, and it's going to be grown in a way where it's not sprayed with all kinds of pesticides, then it's going to be more lively. You're going to get more life from that, as opposed to something that's, the average apple at the grocery stores picked like 2 months before you like
yeah,
bite into it. That's completely insane. And is that going to have as much life force, as much vitality as something that you get at the farmer's market, or something that you grow in the backyard? I saw that you had some peaches that you grew like in your backyard tree. That's
yeah.
going to be like completely full of life that you just pluck right off the tree, and that's going to be way healthier. It doesn't matter if it's plant-based or carnivore or what. These dogmas lock people into a mindset where they aren't considering the life force in the food. The fact that how long has this been sitting out? It loses nutrient value the second it's picked. So if it's going to be trucked halfway across the world, that banana that you're getting from Costa Rica is not going to provide the same level of health as
Yeah,
a
not at
steak
all.
from a butcher nearby. I did want to ask you, I noticed that you speak with a Portuguese accent. Are you from Brazil
Yeah, I
originally?
grew up in Brazil. My dad's from New Jersey, and I grew up in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And I was actually born there because my mom is Brazilian. And then I moved to US in '01, and then I came back in '04. Then I met my wife, and then 2008, pretty much, I did a complete pack. So then I was like living here, married with her, and then I stayed.
Where in Brazil?
Rio de Janeiro,
Wow. Okay. I've
where the
never been,
fun
but
is.
I've heard great things. I love the sound. Portuguese is probably my favorite language. Just to listen to it sounds so like it's so melodic. It almost sounds like music the way that
Oh
it
yeah, yeah.
flows.
It's the Latin language has a little bit of that singing tone, a little bit, and Portuguese has a lot to it. Where are you from?
I grew up in New Hampshire, in the New England area. Lived in Pittsburgh for about 4 or 5 years, and then I've been in Los Angeles for 6 years now.
Oh, nice. How you like Los Angeles?
I like it. It's perfect weather pretty much every day. Some of these, it's gone a little bit off the rails with this pandemic response. I think it's just very left leaning in that regard. And I think it's out of an abundance of caution, they've got a scarcity in some other things, mainly,
Yeah,
economics and freedom. Which is kind of sad to see, because California used to be so counterculture and sort of revolutionary in that regard. They're one of the first states to legalize cannabis, and it seems like they might end up being the first state to legalize psilocybin mushrooms, which is pretty cool. But it has been kind of sad seeing some of the vaccine mandates with no consideration for natural immunity, which many scientists are coming out and saying is better than vaccination. So it's a little concerning to see that not being regarded by the authorities here.
Yeah, and you know one thing that makes me mad with all of this too, it's the fact that there is a little bit of correlation with health and diabetes and overweight and COVID, and but nobody's talking about it. And then there's no, if it's a global pandemic, there's no authority saying like, hey, listen, let's just stop eating processed food and start eating more food. And
Yeah,
then like you said, it's not even about plant-based or keto, or it's like real food, because like people don't realize, like for me and for you probably too, like I went to this experience in life where I was actually ingesting a lot of synthetic stuff to rebuild me from the vegan mistakes, that I did. Which the plant based, it was good because I learned a lot about food, but it's like it's not just plant based. You gotta add other things and mix it up and put some animal products in and blah blah blah. But anyways, it's like doesn't matter what you choose. It's just like it matters if it's real food or not. And if you are needing to take so much stuff to just like wake up, there's something wrong. But nobody's ever even talking about this. It's just like take the vaccine and shut the hell up. Like, no, dude, wait up. This is a global problem, like we all need to be health in general, vitamin D, like go outside, play, sleep a little bit. We live in a life that it's like it's 1,000 miles per hour, man. Like we need to slow down, reconnect, and then that's my opinion. That's what it makes me mad. It's like, come on.
yeah, yeah. You're not alone with that anger. Even if we look at 2020, the top two killers, heart disease and cancer. Number three was COVID. All of those have the same root cause, which is just general ill health. The vaccine against COVID is not going to help you fend off cancer or heart disease. To be honest, those are much bigger risks for everyone. It's just the
For everyone,
statistical fact. You're at a
yeah,
bigger risk of dying from cancer. So if we look at the root cause of a lot of the suffering that we see, at least in the first world, it's coming down to industrial food, processed food. If you want to narrow that down, you could probably say soda, like just
yeah,
get rid of
and
sugary drinks. But yeah,
And on top of that, we have a major scientist that I don't want to mention the name, saying that we all should merge into synthetic meats. Like, are you like out of your mind?
yeah,
Like more processed food is the last thing that we need. I'll be honest.
yeah, yeah. That I don't see that panning out. It could, but man, it's just could be hyper profitable for whoever kind of cracks that nut. If they do, I just think it's a fool's errand. Sort of like maybe flying cars. Like, I don't think that's ever really going to happen. Do we need flying cars? It's like great techno fantasy, but ultimately the healthiest meat for our planet and for our bodies is going to be regenerative meat, something that you'll find from like Campo Farms or Force of Nature. This meat that's been out from an animal that's had a good life out in the sunshine, eating a variety of grasses and shrubs, and they're getting all these phytonutrients, and that goes into the meat, and then that from the meat goes into our bodies, and it helps us fend off pretty much any disease. It amplifies the
Yeah,
immune system in such a powerful way. Your
yeah,
mind and body running on full function. You get energy, immunity, you get better mood, you get a more athletic body, you get a higher functioning creative capability. It's just outrageous, all the benefits that come from this. And it's a real red flag that nobody's talking about it, but it's no surprise, because I don't think anyone thinks our government is here to serve us. They're here to serve major corporations, and that's just the sad reality, and one of the biggest challenges that we'll have to fix if we want to sort of right the ship of our civilization. In a lot of ways, there's so many problems that are just the root causes. One, the food that we're eating, and two, just the financial
yeah.
incentive.
Which like I think is great, to have all this technology and all of these innovation things, but we need to realize that our bodies are ancient. Like we are connected to the planet, So we need to keep that connection in order to keep evolving on technology. But to have something that destroys makes no sense, like no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
And is kind of like where we are heading towards
Yeah.
almost.
No, it's interesting that you mentioned this. I was been thinking about this recently, is how we do come from the earth. And I guess that you could even say that we are the earth in a way. We're just moving, moving bodies of earth energy. It's difficult to describe. Words kind of fail here.
Yeah.
Maybe you think that we came from another planet. I don't know. It's nobody really knows where we come from, but it seems
No,
pretty clear
yeah, I
that
mean, yeah.
this is our home, and our bodies sort of reflect the ocean in some real ways. We're both like 3/4 water, pretty salty. We have to maintain our inner biosphere and our outer biosphere, because as above, so below. There's a lot of relationships there that are being disregarded. But yeah, if you had to speculate, if you had to guess, where would you say our higher consciousness came from? Like what separates humans? What made us so evolved? Like how did we get here from where we were just sort of wild animals, just like roaming the grasslands?
Uh, I, I don't know. Like sometimes I think that we are just wild animals, and that like somehow we learn how to do these things. But sometimes I think we are aliens, man, because it's kind of like we're totally different. Like we are very similar, but at the same time very different in a way from the other animals. That is kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes it's we can go long ways here on a conversation, but like I sometimes I get in doubt. One thing I like to think as is like we are energy beings, regardless of what we came from, and then that means in my head that means we have a soul, right? And that soul is your energy field. It's some of your feelings, your intuition, and things like that. That makes you you. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely thought a lot about this. I was raised without any religion, so sort of just left to find my own way and kind of create my own story about what all this is. It's odd to just think that we kind of come into these lives, these bodies, these families, these countries at this specific point, at this specific time. It really seems a lot like a dream to me. Like I've had dreams so real that I wake
Oh
up and
yeah,
I'm not sure
we can talk about
which is
dreams too.
real. Was it that or this? So I almost, a lot of times I feel like this is some dream of a higher conscious being, or this is just one single experience within an infinite continuum of experiences, and it's just kind of random each time. But then another part of me has read a lot of Buddhism, and has thought, wow, well, maybe karma has something to do with it. Maybe what we do here matters. Maybe
Yes, yeah.
this
Well,
is,
I always had that feeling of and I got, because different than you, I grew up technically in a religion, which it caused me a lot of pain. And my book is about that, like about a little bit of the trauma that gave it to me, and that's why I do music now and things like that. But uh, uh, I kind of had to find my way, and I, I had dreams that came true that, like my book, it's about actually me following a dream that actually came through. Uh, but the dream, like I dreamed like way before, and deja vu's and stuff like that. That's when I kind of realized I was like, listen, there is something more to this for sure. I don't know exactly what it is, but there is. I mean, there is no doubt. And the fact that, because I talked to people before about food, and they say like, "Well, it's chemical. It's a chemistry, right?" I was like, "Yeah, it's chemistry, but when you put a chemistry in your body, there is a chemistry that is alive, and a chemistry that is not alive, which is a fruit or even an animal or whatever you are eating, and that doesn't that chemical acts differently on your body. You know what I mean? Like on on like on the real world, like when it digests, you know, because the digestion is, you can have two same chemicals, but one it's like human made and the other one is from nature, like from a fruit.
Yep.
They will react differently in your body. So obviously there is something more than what we can explain
Absolutely.
energetically happening, and you kind of need to connect to that. My way to connect is through intuition. So my whole life I follow my intuition. I was like, this gotta be right. I follow my dreams. So and that's how I kind of like, after my son was born, like so many things happening that when I look at it, like he has a muscle disability, and when I look at my life, I was like, man, I was meant to be his dad, because the stuff that I learned through my life is the stuff that helps him overcome his challenges. Now it's like it's freaky, but like you, I think you need to be connected. You know, like you can answer me because you went to something similar. Like when you start eating the food, you start connecting with this energy a lot quicker than if you don't do it through diet. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, that's actually a really interesting point. I I can trace sort of another part of me coming online once I started eating more aligned with the way nature intends, the way that is best for human beings. I remember having this idea that I was going to move to Los Angeles, live near the beach, and work for a tech startup, and I was able to make all that happen. Similar to your story, where you're able to have this idea, and then you're going to take it from the dream space into reality. Are you going to make that
into
real?
reality, yeah.
A lot of
It
people,
gives you
they call it
goosebumps, man.
manifestation, and it gets like a little woo woo, but there's a very real way. It happens all the time. People have a dream in their head, and then they turn it into reality. If you read books by some of the world's most prolific figures, a lot of them talk about doing this. They had a vision for a big company or a project or something that they wanted to
Yeah.
do or achieve, and that's where it starts. And then they create that in reality. And well, I'm curious, what was your vision that you had that you wanted to manifest?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, well, I wouldn't say it's gonna be on my comic, because with my book I'm writing a comic too. But here's the thing: I was like depressed, 260 pounds, smoking like almost 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Wow.
I was working at Wendy's. I actually posted that picture yesterday on my Instagram. I was working at Wendy's, and I was like, man, I hate this job, and I hated the fact that I was selling people something that were making them unhealthy. I was sad about that. I was like, it's stupid. Like, I hate the job. It's stupid that I'm doing this. Like, I was going to college for business. Like, I hate it. And I was like, I just need to freaking change. And then I started training for an Ironman. Right before my Ironman, I had a dream that I was winning an Ironman at 9 hours and 55 minutes, which technically is not a time to win, because I was doing like a major race with major professionals. So I went there, I got my ass kicked, but I was like, I did like almost 14 hours, but I was like, but the dream was so real. So that day I started my career and I started chasing that dream. I won that dream. I won that race, which was a local race in Naples, Florida. So it was smaller. So the winning time, of course, it's a little higher. So I won that race at 9 hours and 55 minutes,
Wow.
6 months before my son was born.
Wow.
And then I was like, and that day that I finished the race, it was like, I knew if like my job is done here. Like now it's time to go do something else. But it
That's
was like
amazing.
it's freaky. It's so freaky. But I chased that for like 13 years, and you know, like it became my job. I coach people to do Ironman, and all of it was just using my intuition. I was like, everybody said like, you're nuts, man. You're a 24-year-old smoker. You're gonna be a professional athlete. I was like, I think I can do it, and I did it. I mean, I didn't take any drugs and I didn't win any major event, but I won a local race. I won a bunch of local races. I paid my bills with that, like I did it, like for a lot of people, I'm not successful because I didn't win Kona, for example. But in my view, I'm successful because I follow my heart, like so, like
Oh
deep
yeah.
in the end, I know of like, listen, that was my dream. That shit is real. Now let me tell the story how it all happened.
I don't think a lot of people realize how difficult an Ironman is. I know that you run, you swim, and you bike, and just the running portion is a marathon. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, you're correct.
And how far do you bike, and how far do you swim?
It's uh it's 112 miles on the bike, 2.4 swim, and 26.2 running. So it's a total of 140.6 miles in one day.
Damn, that's yeah, that is beyond the capabilities of that. That's incredible. That's amazing. I mean,
Thank
people
you.
are, you hear about someone running a marathon, and it's like, yeah, hold on a second, I'm gonna finish this marathon and then bike 112 miles and then swim, 2.5 miles.
I know
It's amazing.
you finish with the marathon. The marathon is the last one.
Oh wow, that's got to be fun. That
Yeah,
sounds like a
that's
great
that's
time.
the worst. But I wanted to make a shirt saying like 26.2. It's my cool down.
Yeah, yeah, man, wow. So, what
So
was
now, what do you do for fitness? Let's talk about you.
okay? All right.
Enough
So,
about me.
fitness, I have somewhat of a unique perception on. I like to call it movement practice, so that kind of takes away a lot of the ideas with fitness, exercising, working out. I don't want it to be work. I already work 8 to 10 hours a day. When I have some time to myself, my free time, I want it to be fun. I want it to be playful. I want it to be a movement practice. I want it to be creative. I want to feel like I'm going to get into a flow state of some kind. I want to enjoy it. I don't definitely don't want to go to the gym and hammer it out on a treadmill. I don't want to feel like I'm torturing myself in that
Yeah.
free time that I have. I want to be able to enjoy it. So a lot of the things that I do are centered around that idea. I like to do a lot of martial arts practice. I like to run barefoot down the beach. I like to swim. I like to throw a kettlebell around. I love doing calisthenics and yoga. Anything that will put a smile on my face and make my heart beat, give me some endorphins, and give me a little bit of a rush is definitely something that I'm going to focus on to benefit from.
So because that video, it's freaking amazing, man. Like I always dream of doing that because you just get upside down, like with mastery, and it's like you're not even shaking it, man. It's kind of like it's impressive.
The handstand is absolutely one of the most fun movements to practice, because for a long time, if you do it consistently for a long time, you won't do it. You'll fail and you'll fail and you'll fail. Maybe you'll fall on your back. But at one point in time, if you keep doing it, you'll get it. And you'll think, oh, wow, I got it for that second. And then you just start building on that. So you have it for like a half a second, then you have a second, and then you get to this point where like, whoa, I'm actually pretty comfortable on here. Maybe this is what a toddler feels like the first time they walk on their feet.
They
They're like,
walk,
oh,
yeah.
man. It's like it's a really fun movement to play around with and practice, and it's great being upside down too. The blood kind of flows in your head, and when you come back up, you feel a little bit lightheaded and just get a little bit of a positive
A
energy from
rush.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool because like I didn't practice for years, and then now I'm practice against the wall, and I really want to get there. So when I saw your video, I was like, that's very motivational for me because I always wanted to do it like and learn how to do it like that, like slowly and kind of go up. But you mentioned one thing that like I always talk to people about it, but people have a tendency to think that fitness needs to be boring and hammer on the this or get into the gym where like you can be really fit just by eating better, period, and doing fun stuff, man. You gotta play, you gotta be fun, right? I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah. If it the best workout is the one that you enjoy doing, because then you just keep doing it, and it adds to your day. It lifts you up. It's elevating. It's uplifting, and it's not something you have to force yourself to do, because then you're relying on willpower. That's only going to get you so far. Then what happens when you have a bad day? You say, "Oh, screw it! I'm not going to work out today. I'm going to sit here and watch Netflix," and then that that can bring you into a negative spiral, where all of a sudden you're eating junk food and you're just lounging around, when if you have a movement practice that brings light and energy into your life, you can use that as a way that's like, oh, this is more fun than watching Netflix. I'm just going to keep doing this. And you're not going to be a competitive athlete with that approach, and you're not going to build the best physique you possibly could, but you're going to be fit enough, and you're going to have a great mindset. Your mind is going to be happy and healthy. And to me, that's much more important, because I know that I'm not gonna, I don't want to be this like jacked model guy, that has to go to the gym and like track my reps and my sets. And I don't want to be a competitive athlete. So for me, I just want to enjoy my life. So having a movement practice that brings joy into my life is just a great way to do that.
Plus, like, it's very motivational, because you're gonna be like, hey, I work, like, I can't wait to get home, and even though it's late, I can't wait to get home and kind of have some fun. And this way, you drop the phone, you turn off the TV, like, you kind of makes you want to move. But it's so upsetting to see that people think that fitness is that, like, everyday thing, repeating, and it's like, because I remember after I decided to stop racing for Ironman, my brother asked me, like, we were having a beer. My brother asked me, like, what do you want to do for fitness now? I was like, dude, let me just chill for a little bit, just finish 18 Ironmans. I'm finally having a beer after like 10 years. I don't drink anymore again. Now I use cannabis instead, because it works way better for me, and I use for meditation too. But I'm like, I want to have fun now with my fitness. And then that's when I started skateboarding again, because that's where the fun is at for me. And I'm in the best shape of my life, better than actually when I did Ironman, because my Ironman was destroying my body, but I have better body fat percentage now, better mood. I look forward to go work out, like, it's completely different, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really underrated how much quality thinking you can get done with a movement practice that you enjoy, as opposed to something that you're kind of forcing yourself to do. You put the earbuds in, you blast the music. I remember doing that, and I remember I definitely didn't do any good quality thinking. When I can be out in nature, moving my body, my mind tends to move better. I tend to figure out problems that are bothering me. I'll think of new ways of approaching something. Maybe it's while I'm bending backwards in a yoga pose, and I just like have some new thought, new revelation, new way to approach a problem, and it is completely tied to the movement. The body and mind are so much more related than most people give it credit for. If you're just sitting around or doing the same movements, sitting, standing, going to the gym, you're often like sitting or standing or doing repetitive movements. We're not machines. We're meant to move and be wild and free. And I think it's a great way, and it ties into a broader sort of perspective on keeping the mind elevated. If you want to feel good, you've got to get the neurochemicals of good feeling. So the way I love to approach this is through dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. So those are the 4 neurochemicals that we want, that make us feel good. And if you sort of deconstruct or reverse engineer the way that we approach life, a lot of it is driving us towards those 4 neurochemicals. So if you can reverse engineer that, you can really kind of create your life in a better way that's going to make you much happier in the long term. And endorphins are a big one from exercise. So if you can let yourself go get those endorphins. Serotonin also, if you're working on something, if you're wanting to get a handstand, that progress is going to give you serotonin, because you think, oh wow, I made progress on this today. You're gonna be feeling good about yourself. Same thing with skateboarding, same thing with getting a time on Ironman training. Dopamine, that's a big one from food. That's why a lot of people get addicted to junk food and sugar, because it's such a dopamine rush.
It's so dopamine,
Same
It's
thing
like
with
a drug.
social media too. Getting
Yeah.
likes and follows. And then oxytocin, that's a great one from a dog, petting a dog, from hugs from your family, from sex, from massage. Oxytocin is a harder one to get. Harder one, I think, for a lot of people to get, just because it does involve other beings. But you can
Yeah.
also, if you're alone, you can give yourself a self massage or something. But yeah, it's a great framework for
No
approaching.
judgments here, man. You need to play with yourself. Play with yourself, man. No.
Yeah, if it's gonna help you, then go for it. Yeah, 100%.
Now, you do you have what kind of job you do?
I work in tech, so a lot of it is just computer work, kind of stationary computer work, very logical all day. So I need something to counterbalance that when I'm.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Use that to counterbalance your. But can you tell me a little bit, because you probably work in a cubicle type of it or in a desk?
Yep, yeah, I
I
work from
assume.
home now. One of the blessings of this pandemic has been the remote work situation. At least for me, I know a lot of other people that's not the case, and my heart goes out to those folks who've been suffering through this. For me, working from home has been great. Once I adapted to it, like a
Yeah.
standing desk, so I can stand and work. Can wake up and go for a walk, get some sunshine. I can cook, which is great. Being able to cook for most of my meals instead of like being stuck with office food has been great too.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody the other day. I said the same thing. Like I love the fact that we can work from home. It's actually because of that. Like you can cook right there. If you need to take a walk, get some vitamin D. That's like good ways to kind of break it up. Uh,
Yeah,
but unfortunately, that's not for everybody. But for those who can, I think that's it's a good way now to start reestablishing like good habits, such as like going outside. My wife works from home too, so when the weather is good, she takes the laptop to the garden and just, you know what I mean? Like little things like that make a huge difference, man.
that's a good setup. But I don't have like a Wi-Fi connection that would reach to the garden or a garden that I could work in. But that's yeah. What do you grow out there?
I started to. I don't know much about gardening, but I always been like fascinated about it. So I started doing my own thing. The other day I was actually cutting like acorn squash for me, and then I was like, I have all these organic seeds. Why I am like wasting them? So I put it in the backyard because I didn't know, and then start growing. I was like, oh, that's cool, man. So I have some acorn squash, turnip, beets, and a peach tree. So the peach is already gone. So now only next year. But the turnip and the beets, I think I'm gonna get it something. So it's kind of cool. And it's funny because like when you grow stuff, you see that it needs shit to kind of like grow, and it needs death. Like because like all those little dead animals, they're feeding the soil. So when it started becoming more alive, I start seeing more animals and coming around and mushrooms growing and dead animals, like little dead animals. I'm like, well, see, that's why, like, that's how I came to terms of not being vegan anymore. Because, like you said in the beginning, sometimes it goes almost like freaking religion out of it. And I was so ashamed of eating meat again and all of that stuff. But to grow things, you need the cycle of the death of the animals and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like it's. But anyways, I'm growing. I'm trying to grow that. Hopefully, one day I will convince my wife to grow some weed too.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I'm I've heard that it does grow pretty quickly, and quite easily. Part of the reason why they call it weed is just because cannabis is an amazing plant. The
It's
way that it grows,
amazing.
you can even grow non psychoactive hemp, cannabis hemp, and then you can harvest the hemp seeds. You
Yeah.
can make a CBD out of that. That's have you use any CBD at all in
I
your?
use CBD and I smoke in the pipe to meditate. What about you? Do you use?
Oh yeah, CBD has been an amazing addition to my nighttime routine. It's helped my sleep amazingly. I've got this. There's this one brand called Re Botanicals. I think they're based out of Boulder,
What's the
Colorado.
name?
Re Botanicals. So
Oh, okay.
Re Botanicals. It's really an exceptional organic cannabinoid blend. So they make it with organic MCT oils as the carrier oil. Supposedly that really helps the uptake and the synthesis of your body of the
Yeah.
full spectrum cannabinoids. And I feel a lot of the other ones, they don't taste very good, or they don't really affect me all that much. But this one tastes great, and I feel the effects. It really helps me go to sleep, stay asleep. Yeah, that's been a huge help.
Yeah, I use Bluebird Botanicals. I don't know if you heard about them, but they're
No,
great too.
yeah,
Uh, so that's the one I use. And man, for health, inflammation, depression, all of that stuff, it's really good, man. Like it's being marginalized, especially like because I grew up in Brazil. So when I talk to people in Brazil that here is legal and all of that, people go nuts. But because there's a lot of it's like marginalized. But I think if people know how to learn how to use it properly, man, it's like it's fantastic for your health. And
huge potential. Yeah.
going back to our beginning of our conversation, we talk about some people say that that plant is like it's an alien plant. Actually, I don't know if you ever heard about this, but I heard that cannabis is an alien plant. That's why it's so magical and miraculous.
What do you know the reason behind that? Is it just because it's so like different from all the other plants?
I don't know. I really don't know. But if you think about it, like it grows anywhere super quick, and it can it can be used for a bunch of medicine, like especially depression, like it helps so much. And it helps like with so many things and like doesn't make much sense to me why, but I mean doesn't make much sense to me why it's illegal, but it will make sense why it could potentially be or people can say that it's alien because it works for like so many, it's so magical. I don't know
Yeah.
if you have you heard that documentary, The Magic Plant, I think?
No.
You should check it out. You're gonna love it, man.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up. In thinking about this, it kind of seems like there is almost like there's within every kingdom, there's like a most evolved kind of life form within that. So like human beings are the most evolved land mammal. You've got dolphins, maybe the most evolved mammal in the ocean, right? Like they communicate in ways that we can't even begin to understand. They have a very evolved society. It might be better to be a dolphin than a human, right? They're just like swimming around and playing all day. And then, in the plant kingdom, you've got cannabis, which has all these amazing uses and benefits for the animals that use it. In the fungal kingdom, there's so many amazing mushrooms, and that's another one that could be otherworldly. Some of fungus does survive in space,
Yeah.
and it could have easily come on some sort of meteorite. So I don't know. It's definitely fascinating. And then when you think about bacteria, which kind of connects to the microbiome and some aspects of health as well,
Yeah.
there's so much diversity in there. Just the bacteria inside of our guts, they're so different that one could be like an elephant and one is like a jellyfish. That's sort of the disparity between because a lot of people just think of bacteria, oh, it's microscopic life, whatever. It's all just kind of like blobs in a.
And do you know what is interesting? I interviewed a lady 2 weeks ago on my show, and she said that your microbiome comes from your grandmother. So
Wow.
that's how it's carry on, like like in 2 or 3 generations sometimes. So that's how it's important to eat, because your microbiome will recognize that because it comes from like generations and generations. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of impressive.
Yeah, hugely amazing. I mean, it's going through a new generation every 30 minutes, so it's living and dying, and then it's a new generation of of microflora within our body. And this is one of the biggest ways or learnings to kind of change. If you're addicted to sugar, if you're addicted to certain foods that aren't serving you and you can't quite quit it, you just got to keep it up for enough time to shift, to sort of terraform
Yeah.
the microbiome within your body. Once you have that shift, then you start craving the foods that you've been eating. You start being driven towards a more nutrient dense diet. I remember that happened specifically with like greens, like kale, things like that. I used to not really be into it, but then once I kind of force fed it to myself a few days in a row, it was like started thinking like, oh, so I could go for some greens right now. But it was like, what? That's such a foreign concept that you would be craving like a fresh salad, but you definitely do after a couple of days.
Yeah, you can kind of like it's that I changed my life and my diet so many times because it was just like people say 21 days. 21 days is shit for me. 21 days is like when you you start getting really uncomfortable, and that's when you have actually to add a few more days. So I would say 40 days at least to make like a real like to start feeling the benefits, I think. Even if
Yeah.
it's just a little bit, but that's when you're gonna start feeling that fire coming up in you, and then you're like, oh yeah, I don't crave that stuff anymore, and I actually feel better with the other stuff. That's my experience at least. Like
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I know it's different for everybody. And the 40-day mark is by then it's, you've been doing it for a whole month and a third. I think you're probably on the right track at that point. Do you use any
yeah,
other
you already like in a discipline where if you change that, you're gonna miss it. That's my experience. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
because
Yeah, by then
21
it's
days, it's
hard.
like it might it might change, but you're not gonna feel it. And for me, nothing's real until you really feel it. So you gotta feel it, the benefit, and then you're like, okay, I don't want to go back to that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Do you use any other supplements or superfoods on a regular basis aside from cannabis?
no. I used to have more stuff, but like antioxidants and things like that. But right now, I don't take anything. It's very like I eat very very simple in a way. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. I was doing some research about supplements, not really supplements, but nutrient dense foods that would provide a full spectrum of micronutrients to allow my body to provide a higher level of immunity. Brazil nuts were a good one that I eat pretty consistently for the selenium. I like to have camu camu for the vitamin C. Oysters are great for zinc and selenium as well. And then this is not a popular one, but organ meats, so things like
Oh
beef
yeah,
liver and heart. There's nothing better. It's the healthiest food on the planet. Would be pasture raised beef organ, specifically the liver. That beats every other food. So if you believe that food is medicine and you want to give yourself the best possible medicine, there's nothing better than liver. It takes a little bit of practice to learn how to cook it, or you could even get like a supplement if you wanted to take a supplement in a dehydrated form of it. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. I try to eat organ meat once a month usually.
yeah,
Uh, that's tried to be my rule. Like, but heart is actually very tasty, man. Like in Brazil, chicken heart is like it's famous in when you go to those all you can eat meat buffet style, and they have a lot of chicken heart. But I tried beef heart before, and it was delicious. Like I wasn't expecting that. Chicken heart, it's so, but and liver, it's hard to eat, but I I force myself.
that one. If you gotta sort of cook it
You gotta put a
quick,
lot of
easy.
onions.
I like to just do a minute each side, give it a sear on each side. It's going to be a lot better. But yeah, it's that one is very unique in its texture and its flavor, and that's because it's so nutrient dense. It's just packed with all the nutrients that cow was eating are stored in its liver. That the liver sort of serves as a compository of nutrients and enzymes, and you're just getting this blast of nutrition that is unrivaled on this planet. So that you're gonna taste something a little bit unusual, and then the texture is like also a little unusual. But you want
Yeah.
to eat a whole liver. But yeah, I agree. Heart is one of the better cuts. That's one of my favorite cuts of meat. And it's really affordable, very cost effective
Yeah.
for what you're getting.
What about bone broth? You do bone broth too, or no?
Yes, yeah, I like bone broth a lot. I'll make that pretty consistently with all the leftover bones. I'll just keep them in my freezer and then toss them into the slow cooker for like 24, 48 hours with a little bit of apple cider vinegar and some salt. And then I've got like a big thing of bone broth. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Now, I forgot to add something that you said about the dolphins back there. There's two things I wanted to add. One's like I heard that dolphins they play with, I don't know, it's a type of jellyfish that get them high. So and they do speak with different stuff. And today, actually, my son, it's nonverbal, my oldest, and so we were talking to the psychologist at school, and then the lady asked like, "How you guys communicate?" Because like everybody knows that we communicate a lot. And then I was like, I'm afraid to tell you, but a lot of it's like it's a mental communication, like to expression, to like looking at each other, or some people call telepathy, but
Mhm.
we understand each other, like me and him and my wife, like that a lot.
Wow.
And some people say that humans have that capability, like a dolphin has it too. So I don't know if you have experienced anything like that. We were on that conversation, and I totally skip it. And I had those questions for you. So do you think that, have you ever experienced something, or
That's a really interesting question. I've definitely experienced certain, a good example of this is dogs know when their owners are coming home. Like what is that? That's more than just instinct. There's this great book called One Mind. I don't know if you've heard of it. I forget who wrote it, but it goes into a lot of detail on studies and historical references on things like telepathy, where it's sort of in the realm of parapsychology, right? It's sort of fringe. People just write it off. But if you think about historically, Native Americans are a great example. A lot of people thought that the smoke signals were a message, right? You're sending smoke into the sky, and then people are reading that smoke, and they're sending messages that way. But when they asked Native Americans, they said that the smoke signal was to say, "Hey, we have a message to send telepathically." So I'm not a Native American. I haven't spoken to someone myself to verify that story, but that's what it said in that book. So a lot of ancestral tribal communities. I've heard on podcasts as well that there are tribes in the Amazon that communicate um, telepathically. So they'll say like, "Yeah, if I need you, if I have a message, I'll call you." And they don't have cell phones,
yeah.
So it is certainly within the realm of possibility based on what I've read and come to understand.
Yeah, the more I see my son grow, the more I realize that kind of stuff is real, and we take it for granted, man. Like it's because we're so like confused with everything that is going on, like the like not only the planet, but like our whole life is 1,000 miles an hour, and people don't stop to do that kind of stuff. And like I don't know, all of this got way stronger, started to get stronger in 2012, and that's one of the things that I decided to change. But it got really strong in 2020. So I don't know how it was for you, but being away from people for me, it helped me like realize like a lot of other things that it was going on, and I never really thought. And uh, somebody comment here. When we played dictionary as kids, we had twin telepathy for sure. Is that your sister?
That's my twin brother.
Twin brother? Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know why I
yeah.
said
So
sister, but I thought it. So you have a twin brother?
yeah. That's
Yeah.
Patrick. Uh, yeah,
So
I
you're
guess
allowed to say. You
yeah.
can say it, man.
Yeah, yeah. So we must. I I do remember having some sort of connection. If it was telepathy, it was definitely maybe it wasn't fully developed. You know, not what some people might think of. Like you're not getting a message sort of directly into your mind. At least I don't remember it being exactly like that. But it's sort of how do I describe this? The words kind of fail in these kind of conversations, but it's more of like an energy that you kind of feel and then you interpret it. Sort of like if I'm going to think of what to say, it first starts as an energy that you feel, maybe an emotion, and then you kind of interpret that into words that come out of your mouth, which are just like symbols for that emotion, and then it goes into your ear with those symbols, and you interpret that in your own way. So part of the reason why communication is so hard. But yeah, what is it like when you communicate with your son?
It's I don't know, it's weird. It's just like sometimes we're looking at each other and then an idea just pop up. And no, like for example, he has a YouTube channel, right? And and he loves playing on YouTube, so he's playing and watching his stuff on YouTube. And then one day, like I just like, dude, you want to do your own, like it was almost like him saying like, hey, I want to do a YouTube channel. And then I came up with the idea, but it was like looking at him, like we kind of connect. And then that pops in my head, and he just opened his mind of like, yeah, let's do it. And it was more, it's like through emotion, but like it's like when you feel like you feel the energy coming in, and like there's other things like, for example, he has a trick, right, that he did when he was 8 months. And so he's doing surgery, and I'm sitting at just waiting in the staging room. This lady comes in. She's like, "Oh, I heard your child is having surgery. I'm from the religious part of the thing. It's like I'm not to any specific religion, but I came here like you want to set a prayer." Normally, I would be like, whatever, don't do anything. But that day, I mean, my son's having surgery. He's 8 months old. I'm scared as fuck. So I was like, okay, fine, let's pray. As we are doing like the thing, I closed my eyes and I saw him at the surgery table, like this, saying like, "I'm fine. I'll be out in 10 minutes." I was like, this is crazy. So I sat down and I turned on my watch chronometer and just let it run. Like, honestly, the doctor comes in, I look at the watch, 10 minutes to the dot. He said, like, he's fine, he's awake, and he's going to the room. Like, I just turned white right there. I was like, dude, this is creepy as it can be. And,
Yeah.
that's sort of things happening, or like something, if he needs something, like I just know, like the other day he dropped something, and before even he called me, I was already coming to pick it up because I knew it. Uh, he needed something. I didn't even know what it was. Like little things like this. It's hard to explain, but
Yeah.
it's an energy that you like, boom, like that's how it feels.
This is making me think. We started speaking earlier about intuition, and how once we begin to live more aligns with nature, with with this earth energy, with the rest of our community, our intuition comes online. It almost seems like we have this shared intuition as well, where we can intuit what others are thinking, almost this, I guess you'd call it a collective consciousness, where
Yeah,
maybe it's where ideas come from. Like we often get ideas, they just pop in your head. Where does that come from? And why do we pursue some and not others? And it's really interesting to think that a lot of the world is driven by ideas. We think about, viruses have been a big trend over the past year, 2 years now. And what we look at online are things that go viral as well. And ideas that catch on are really viral in their nature as well. Like there are viral ideas that go from mind to mind. Like
yeah,
the idea to use Instagram or to eat a plant-based diet or to do an Ironman. It's like these ideas kind of come out of nowhere and they just pop into our brain and they bloom into this fully formed reality. And it's really pretty interesting how that all kind of happens.
Yeah. Yeah, they say like we have our consciousness, and then we have access to the collective one, and that's why I like meditation. Like I tweeted one day talking to you, like since very early ages, I started meditating. I called it concentration on that time. You know, like I played basketball. I was like, I need to concentrate 5 minutes before I play. That was my thing, and I didn't even know that it was meditation, but I think through meditation, you can kind of like start finding your path in life. You know, like it doesn't need to be like my way of viewing is like following your dreams. It shouldn't be that hard. It's gonna be hard, of course, because you're gonna have challenges. But like if we shut up our minds and let you know the path start showing up, I think life becomes easier. Uh, that's what I found out. But
Yeah, it's a beautiful perspective, and just from speaking with you to this point, I can tell that that comes from challenges and also a life lived. Like you've experienced what you've experienced what you're talking about. You're not just saying these things because you read it on on a meme. These are things that you've lived, and you're here to share that these are powerful methods to kind of make life better and easier. And it's great to hear you sharing it with that lived experience behind it too.
you know, like the only reason I don't feel comfortable talking about it, but I'm starting to feel. But it's funny that you mentioned because I did a bunch of energy work before, and I became a Reiki master. But I I always rejected any kind of religion for me because it just didn't feel right. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, what are you gonna do? You know, like, and I went to like, I need something, man. You know, like, and through experience and doing a lot of wrong things, I kind of find a way. And I mean, like, it's kind of odd. It's an odd life. And I did an energy work once that the lady said, like, oh, you don't fit in any religion in this world. Don't worry about it. And then I was like, really? Because I was like, I need something. And then she read my energy. So for some reason, I don't. And I guess this was the way I see it. It's like it was part of my path. I needed to find that. And I needed to go afterwards. And it's weird how I did because I found with using weed and meditation and rock and roll, like all the bad things you hear about it, I did, and then it worked out.
That's awesome.
But I guess I was lucky. But
Yeah. Well, what is luck ultimately? You know.
true. Well, what about you? You had the dream too that you wanted to be a tech, and you are a tech now, and you wanted to come to LA and stuff. So tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about that.
Well,
How did it happen?
it wasn't straightforward, but I knew that I wanted to move to Los Angeles, work for a company that was doing positive things in the world, making positive change, and I wanted to live near the beach. I remember I moved out here without any job. I just kind of quit and moved, and then just kind of bounced around. I sold solar power for Tesla for a little bit. Sold and repaired bicycles, and now I work for a health food company. There's there was there were a lot of moments where I could have felt sorry for myself and doubted the path. And I know I still have a lot of growth to go and a lot of big dreams that I'm building towards. So it's exciting to continue the path, but it's also very life affirming when you've accomplished some things and you can sort of
Yeah,
hang your hat and say, all right, so this really does work. Like you can conceive of a life, and if you believe in it, you can absolutely create it. And you'll get these ideas, and they may seem completely unrelated to what you ultimately want to do. But if you take these ideas and you just do them, you just trust, you just have faith and believe, then you'll learn a little bit here, a little bit there. Like I'm learning a lot from you, and we didn't know each other where we just met online coincidentally, and I'm learning a lot in this conversation, just taking the opportunities that life presents, and then just watching it unfold in a beautiful way. It's
Yeah.
a wild ride. Yeah.
Do you know what's funny? When I tweeted you, I just had this intuition of like you should call him for to talk, and I was on like I just met the guy. He probably not gonna talk. I didn't even know. I didn't even know what he did for a living. So I'm like, well, maybe he's a personal trainer and he might want to talk. And then I'm like, well, what the hell? Let's see it. And then you answer like I mean, I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I guess what's meant to be.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot too, man. So it's kind of like it's good stuff because it reaffirms like you and me having a similar experience, and if you look at it, there's a pattern on the age thing there too, and it's kind of like it's reassuring. I'm pretty sure it's reassuring for you that it is for me as well. As like, oh, that really works. I'm not crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes me want to double down on everything that we've been talking about, to spend less time sort of like scrolling and swiping online, which is, it's a big sort of time waster ultimately, in committing more to what I know in my heart to be, my path, my destiny on this planet. Spend more time meditating and concentrating on the things that I know I need to be doing to sort of get to where I want to go, to fulfill the vision that I have in my mind. So it's good to have a constant reminder, because it's so easy, like you said, we're 1,000 miles per hour. It's so easy to get sucked into the slipstream of technology. Swipe your finger and you've got unlimited, infinite options for entertainment, information, food. You could buy anything in the world and have it on your doorstep in 2-3 days. Really, mine.
Yeah.
It's an abundant, unlimited, infinite digital land of possibilities, and it's really distracting for a lot of people. I'd say for pretty much everybody with the phone is distracted by that thing. So it's always
Yeah.
good to have a reminder, just like, hey, put it down for a little while, spend some time connecting with yourself, with nature, reorienting towards creating the life that you want to live.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to use because it's great for information and stuff. But at the same time, you kind of be like, hey, you know what? Yes, let me do my thing. You kind of, I don't know, like people call it very selfish sometimes, but I think the only way you can kind of overflow to the world next to you, red is next to you or to the whole world, it's for you to be feel like you can fill up from an empty cup, man. And that's a reality. If it's empty, you're just gonna give emptiness. So at one point, you're gonna have to be a little selfish. Say like, hey, I need to reconnect, recompose, so I can actually I have to love myself, so I can actually love somebody else. You know what I mean? Like that type of deal. Uh, and I don't know, like I think that's pretty much the only way to go. Like if you want to have a fulfilling life, I mean, if you find another way, let me know, man.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Yeah, it's not always easy. Definitely essential.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
and I think you will agree that it starts with food, right?
That's a big part of it. Yeah, especially for a lot of folks, it's going to start there, but it doesn't end there. You can get overly obsessed with the food that you're eating too, and sort of become orthorexic. Like, oh, I can't have a single particle of sugar in my food. But like, you don't want to overly focus on that. You can still live a good life and have some foods that are not ultimately the healthiest thing you've ever
Yeah,
eaten. But there is more to life, and I'd say for most Americans, yeah, it's definitely going to start with food. And as people who have made that transition, I think we have a responsibility to share that.
to share that, I agree.
Everyone who's made a shift towards healthier lifestyle has a deep responsibility to their community, to their country, to their family, to try and share what they've learned in a way that could be compelling and impactful, because we've got some pretty serious issues on the health front, and it's only going to be remedied from grassroots people powered solution. It's not going to be the government, obviously, we know that
Yeah.
right now. So it's got to be friends, neighbors, colleagues, coworkers. That's where it's going to happen if we're going to overcome some of the challenges.
Yeah, it's funny because like when I started to do all of this, I was like, I should have been charging this, because first I learned by intuition, and second, I think this should be a human right to know. Like, listen, these are the good foods for you, and these are not really the good foods for you. You can eat it, but just know there is consequences to your health and things like that. But I think this is, like you said, I think it's a duty to the people to know, to share it, because that's the only way how we're gonna stop overflowing the hospitals. That's plain and simple, man.
Yeah, it was a huge issue before the pandemic happened. Obesity, cancer, diabetes. It was a massive problem. I think we spend over $1 billion a day through our healthcare system remedying the problems that are caused by the junk food that is being sold by these companies that we ultimately fund with our tax dollars, mostly with corn and high fructose corn syrup. So we're paying them front end, we're paying them the back end, and it's just corroding our people, our friends, our family from the inside out. And yeah, it's absolutely our responsibility to do something about that. And one of the biggest ways is to vote with your dollar. If you are spending your dollar in ways that empower companies to continue to do the right thing, then that's great. And it's even better to not spend your dollars on companies that are doing things that aren't so good for people and for the planet. That has very real impact. That it's only maybe $5 here, $5 there, but it leads to changes in the supply chain over time. And if that idea catches on, we can recreate this world in a much better, more just, more equitable, more powerful, more energetic, more creative way. And that's the world I want to live in. That's the world I'm excited to be a part of. And it happens day by day, decision by decision.
Yeah, $5 of 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people, it's a lot of money, man, in the end.
Yep.
And it's one thing I always said to people, like, if you can buy organic and stuff, buy it, because then the price, the more demand we have, the price is gonna get better, and the other stuff is gonna just start getting obsolete. It's economics, and it starts with you. That's the reason why, like, we talk about the global warming. One thing you can do if you have a garden at home, you can plant some stuff. That for me, this is a way I can give it back to the planet too. Is like, I'm not only planting for me, because my peaches, like, I ate a lot of them, but a few of them I gave it away because it was so many. So it's not like I'm profiting or anything, but you give it back to the planet itself, like, so little things like that. And who knows, if all the acorn grows, I'm gonna have acorn for the rest of the
year. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a simple way to give it back, right?
Yes.
Don't spend the money. Don't.
Yeah, it makes you feel good as the one able to give the gift, and it makes them feel good as the one able to receive it, and it goes all the way around, full circle. And you can give that gift in a lot of ways. You can give that gift by riding a bicycle or walking instead of driving. You're giving a gift to future generations of less pollution. You can also do that just giving a compliment to strangers. I don't know how many. Los Angeles is a pretty friendly place. I don't know how many days I've just been having a bad day and I just get a compliment from a stranger, and it just completely changes my day. Like there are so many simple ways to just uplift those around you, and it really does go full circle. And it's all about it, and it really, I swear this is another thing where you're talking about intuition and the collective consciousness. That idea sends ripples out through the collective consciousness. I'm just I'm like a crazy person trying to explain this, but this has been studied as well, and there's some emerging science about that, where if you make a choice to do something, it makes it easier for other people to make that choice. It's something
Yeah.
within the atmosphere, I guess, within the brain waves. I don't know exactly, but
That's one of my reasons to share my story, because it's like, first of all, like, first, I went to look within for answers, and also it's like I wanna motivate people that don't fit in the 9 to 5 job, that don't fit, because like I tried at 3 colleges, and I was like, if I continue here, I'm gonna kill myself, man. I just knew it. So I wrote the book to say, like, there is another way, like, might seem crazy, like, you might not be a millionaire, but there is another way. You can do something else with your life. You can do, something that you want to follow your dream. And that's my point of writing the book. It's like, like, there's other ways out there. And I think on the ripple effect all the time, because I'm a Reiki master, and it's energy, man. And once you put that good energy out there, that seed, you might not even see on your lifetime, but you might see on other lifetimes that, you know, some people will listen, and then another people will listen, and then just kind of go like, it's vibrational.
so what is a Reiki master exactly? It sounds like that's probably the coolest title I've ever heard. First of all, that I want to be Reiki master, but then I'm also just kind of curious what that entails.
Well, Reiki is an energy, healing energy that you can channel to your body. It's a Japanese technique. So basically, you meditate and you channel the energy, and you can pass it on to the person or the practitioner. I can do it on you one day. I do it. I do a long distance every now and then, but I do a lot on my kids and my wife. But it's basically healing energy, and it helps you uh, with
Interesting.
lowering your stress, being calmer, and things like that. And it's funny because I did in people with COVID, and all of them, like the throat chakra, like the energy center here, they were all blocked. So when I did the Reiki, they went straight here to unblock there. It was pretty impressive. And it was
Wow.
more than like 10 people that were in the hospital because of COVID that I did. So
Wow.
that's what Reiki is. So you channel the energy with some Japanese symbols and stuff, and then you pass that on to the people, to whatever.
Does that exhaust? Are you exhausted after? What is it? Do you like Reiki somebody or after giving somebody Reiki, or like how does that
Yeah,
after
giving some
a session?
sending somebody Reiki. Yeah, depending on the person, yeah, sometimes you get. I have to ground myself every time after I do it. So I take a cold bath, or I step on the grass, or if it's snowing, I go outside on the cold with no shirt to kind of ground myself again. Because otherwise, my energy can stay there, not stay there, but it can get attached, and then you feel it. It's
So
kind
how
of
did you?
weird, but
Yeah, no, it's fascinating though. I've never spoken to anyone who's been a Reiki practitioner. I've heard about it. I've just never really spoken about it. So I'm really curious. How did you get into it? How did you
uh,
start?
well, 2012, because I was born on the summer solstice. So June 21st, 2012, I was going through that transformation that I talked, and I went to a place to do a Reiki section. And when I did the Reiki section, I was like, man, I always wanted to study that, but I never did. And so from there, I got one book. Then I started like reading, and then I was like, well, I gotta find a course, but I never really found one. Then my son was born. The day that I went to the NICU, because he stayed on the NICU, the intensive care unit, for 84 days. And then they asked me, like, do you want anything of, like, if you have a Reiki master, I want Reiki on him. And it's like, oh, we have a Reiki practitioner here. So they call her, So I start talking to her. She's like, "Oh, I will start teaching you." So since she started teaching me, I did a course online with all the philosophical part of it, and then the practice part she taught me in the hostel. So and then I did the test, I passed, and I became.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
So I don't know. I people that done it Reiki with me, they say it's strong. So apparently I'm good at it, but it's something that you can prove. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's one
energy.
of those
So
things that's it's a little bit out there, but it's definitely like it's a real it's a thing because it what is it? Just everybody's making it up. Is there some grand Reiki conspiracy where
exactly, yeah,
everyone's just making it up? I think it seems like some people are just going to be more kind of in tune with that and more affected by it. It's not for everybody, obviously, but
yeah.
nothing is for everybody. So yeah, it's really
Well,
interesting to hear about.
receiving is good for everybody, but even that, a lot of people receive differently. Like for example, my wife, when I started doing with her, her third eye, like she started feeling like a tingling here, like so
Wow,
strong that she's like it's freaky, but she sleeps like a baby afterwards.
wow, that's a pretty good side effect if you're asking me.
Yeah, that's true. Well, man, I don't want to take too much of your time, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. And maybe we should do this a few more times because it's great conversation. I learned a lot with you. I have a lot of reaffirmations from you as well. Uh, I hope you enjoy it. And I like to finish is let's say you got a minute or whatever your time. Take your time, but imagine that you can tell the world something right now. The whole world is watching you. What would you like to say, loud and clear, like something that you would like to just put it out there, and that you wish people will know and people will understand? Or
I'd just like everybody to take a moment to contemplate the loved ones in their lives, the situation in their lives. It may not be perfect. It may not be exactly what you would want it to be if you were to write it out. But just take a moment to focus on the things that you like about your situation, the things that you love about the people that you love, and understand that this is great. This could all be gone. It may not have happened like this. You may have been dealt a hand of cards that would put you in a significantly worse situation. It happens to a lot of people all over the world. If you're watching this, you're incredibly fortunate in many ways. There's over 1 billion people who don't even have access to clean water. I'm not saying that to guilt trip anybody. I'm saying that to just help you sort of have gratitude for everything that you do have and go forward with that sense of thankfulness and levity and tackle the challenges that are in front of you and enjoy it. Enjoy it while it lasts.
very good, man. Very good. It's been a pleasure, William. Got it right?
Yes, you as
My
well.
grandfather was named William.
Mine as well.
So
Mine too.
yeah, and yeah, my grandfather, and I think my uncle too, my uncle as well. Yeah. And we're not very close, but my uncle as well. So
Awesome.
I,
Awesome. It's great
this
speaking with you.
go from my pleasure, man. Trust me. Uh, this will be on YouTube. I will send you the link afterwards if you want to share with your friends, family, whoever you want to. And for those watching, subscribe to my channel, Punkaste TV, and the Not So Fashion Show. It's a talk about something. We're here to talk about existence, health, and all of that good stuff. Thank you, William. I appreciate it, man.
Cool. You too.
May the force be with you.
You too.
All right, man.
Peace.
Peace. Take care.